I'm
right.
Dana. I've been subtly in the background of the emails.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been reading the emails and not letting me know that they're there.
I did
And
that
so the
once.
ones that I didn't answer until like 4 days later, it's because he didn't tell me there was an email.
Because I thought she had already read them. I was like, okay, cool. And then all of a sudden I get a message. I'm like, did you read an email? I was like,
it's fine if you open it, but you need to let me know that it's there if you're not going to be the one answering it.
I mean, that's the way to do it. Just subtly lurk in the background. I'm a little jealous.
Yeah, he has the fun job. Hey friends, Future Jenna here, just jumping in as always with our trigger warnings for the book we will be discussing in today's episode. Those main trigger warnings will include discussion of sexual assault, including victims telling their stories, car accidents, and underage drinking. And I will say as well that this book does include a lot of discussion on the boys will be boys culture. And while the book and some of the main characters are working to bring attention to it and fight against it, it is a big part of the storyline, so just keep that in mind. And with that, let's jump on into the episode.
hello everyone and welcome to our book club style podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Dana.
And I'm Jenna.
Two high school friends reconnecting for the joys of reading. Now, our tastes and opinions may differ when it comes to a good read, but sometimes we just might be on the same page. Now let's find out if we are.
Yes, welcome back and welcome to our book discussion for the month of November. You'll probably remember from our episode on the 15th, we are discussing the Bro Code today. But first, Dana has a quick announcement.
Yep, quick announcement. We are officially now going to weekly episodes for the month of December. We already have 2 books chosen, which means in between we'll have 2 check-in episodes. And so
sort of. We'll have a check-in episode and then we'll have a monthly discussion of some sort.
Yeah, and then we're posting those. We decided on Friday we're posting, and we record.
Dana.
I don't remember what we said to post.
Dana. Yes, we will be posting on Friday. Same time. They'll be posted at noon Dana's time. Yep, so West Coast, but going up every Friday.
Yeah, so we get you more reads, more discussions. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Excited for those Christmas holiday reads. But first, like I said, we are discussing the Bro Code today. If you don't remember, it is the Bro Code. Author is Elizabeth Seibert, published through Wattpad Books just this year in 2020, and it is 301 pages. Looks like this. You can see I finished it last night, so I still have my bookmark in it. And very exciting. We have Elizabeth here. If you want to jump
Hi,
on
everyone.
in.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about bros and books and anything else that comes up.
There's plenty of rambling about other topics, I guarantee.
All right, cool.
We are very excited. But before we do jump into that discussion, Dana, do you want to start us off with what you are drinking?
Yeah, we're kind of skipping out on the alcohol today, kind of keeping
it's
it
early,
calm
y'all.
and nice. It's very early today. And so I have, it smelled like grapefruit, but it is raspberry peach lemonade.
That sounds so good.
Very refreshing. It's a little tart, but it's going to wake me up for today.
Elizabeth, do you want to go next?
Sure. I have an M&M cup from M&M World.
That is so cute.
And it is, I had to look this up so I could get it actually. Okay, cranberry blood orange tea.
Ooh.
And it is fair trade, which is exciting, from the Republic of Tea.
Nice. That sounds
I'm not
delicious.
a sponsor, but yeah, I like them a lot.
Fair trade tea, if you're out there, please sponsor us. I also have tea, sort of. So I made my husband go to Starbucks this morning, so I have a fun little Christmas cup. I have a chai tea latte with coconut milk and peppermint, because I always want to get the holiday flavors and I want the peppermint latte and all that, but I'm not a coffee person. And I just found out during PSL season that it's so good putting the flavors in chai tea instead.
Wait, That's a good secret. I didn't know that.
I was so excited, but also so mad at myself that I never tried it before now.
Oh my gosh, I'm mad at myself. Yeah, I didn't know you could add flavors to the chai tea.
And neither,
Wow.
it's so good. It lends itself so nicely to it. PSL was like, it was the perfect flavor for a chai tea because they're most of the same spices anyway. But
Yeah.
it's good with peppermint too. Can recommend.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know they had the cups out yet either. So
Yeah.
good things at Starbucks, I guess.
One of my
Also not a
girlfriends.
sponsor.
Oh God, can you imagine? The same page, sponsored by Starbucks. I would be so caffeinated.
Oh God.
One of my girlfriends, the red cup day when it switches to Christmas cups always falls on her birthday. And so we always go and get Christmas coffee on her birthday to celebrate her.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Well, sir, do you want to go ahead and start us off with the discussion?
Yeah. So as we normally do we still want to go with a quick little read of the back flap to remind everyone?
Yes,
do
thank you.
that.
I'm usually the person keeping him on track with the layout, but look at you
Aw.
calling me out.
All right, quick little read of the back. As a certified stand-up bro, Nick McGuire knows that some things in life are sacred. Do not skip ab workouts, never back down from spicy foods, and always accept the outcome of rock, paper, scissors. For these are the revered doctrines of the bro code, rules of conduct that have been passed down through the ages from bro to bro. Heading into his senior year, Cassidy High's star soccer player has his priorities straight and intends to spend his time playing sports, hanging out, and living by the code. When his best bro Carter's sister Eliza returns from studying overseas, the awkward academic girl Nick remembers is different. Carter might be Nick's bro, but Eliza becomes his whole world, and he has to make a choice between them. Is being with the girl of your dreams worth breaking the most important rule? Never date your best friend's sister? Somehow Nick never expected that following the bro code may have even bigger consequences than breaking it.
Is that so weird, just watching someone read the back of your book to you?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's read that to me before.
I saw your face when he started and you were like, oh.
This is awesome.
Glad I can break the mold.
Yeah, no, that's good. Good job. Glad we have a recording of that.
Oh yeah, feel free. But yeah, so we have here an awesome YA rom-com that I think, keeping in with the theme, we're always trying to read different books. We're always trying to have something different each month. But when we have
this was our first YA read for
Oh, wow. Okay.
I love
Honored.
YA. I read it as much as I can, basically. But this was our first one for the podcast, which was really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
The majority of I read too, but as we discussed on previous episodes, I'm not the biggest romance guy. At least I wasn't until our second read.
I made him read the Bromance Book Club, and he ate it up, basically. And so I'm just slowly turning him into a romance reader.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so as soon as I started this one, I was hooked, and I was just very, very enjoying the story that was here, because with the way it is written, I just fully felt like I was being brought back to high school. I was getting flashbacks of hanging out with people I knew. I could see people I hung out with within some of these characters. And so
you mentioned that in the check-in episode, and all I could think of was, oh God, no one flashback to high school me ever, please.
Well, you guys are high school friends, right?
We are,
Yes.
yeah. We
Okay,
actually,
so
fun fact, we went to prom together.
Aww.
Oh, that
That's
was
awesome.
crazy nights. And
Weird times.
But yeah, and so I really felt that the tone of this book hit it right on the mark of being what I remembered about high school, or even sometimes being what I think other people told me about their high school experiences. And so
one of my favorite things in that respect was all of the anxiety surrounding the college applications and and the tryout and everything. My husband is in the middle of LSATs and applications for law school right now, and so that was a little too close to home for me. I was sitting there reading it like, oh my God, no, I remember.
But so why we chose the book, essentially was because we had the opportunity to interview Elizabeth. The opportunity came up, and we thought that would just be great, especially early on in our podcast. We're like, that's something we'd probably like to keep doing, is eventually interview authors and read their reads. And so when we it came up, we jumped at the opportunity. And of course, something to, like we said, first YA on the podcast, another romance to open up my view of reading. And so it kind of checked a lot of boxes, and then I'm glad we picked it.
Me too. Thank you. That's great.
And then, so with that, Jenna, on the next list, overall, did we enjoy it? Yeah, it's. I've been going already going into it. No, I will say that it was just so cute, and I don't use that word a lot when I think of a book. It was adorable. As soon as it started, I'm reading Nick, and I'm like, oh, I knew Nick. I feel like sometimes I wasn't. I don't like that. And then as soon as Elizabeth just comes into the picture, it clicked for me, and I just feel like the subtlety of his liking her, because he clearly states the rules. You can't like your best friend's sister. He's constantly talking about it in that beginning, but every little mental thought he had, I'm like, dude, stop lying to yourself. Come on, it's there. It's there. Just say hi. Go talk to her.
Who are you trying to fool?
And so, it made me think of first crushes. It's always cute, and the anxiety and the energy that was built into Nick of this. He acts normally around her, but knows that he's also slyly doing the flirting he's not supposed to be doing, and just every little thought that came to his mind, it just felt real. It made me think of just the first time I liked a girl, it was just like, oh my god, just look away, just you can't make eye contact, or just and so the tone, the overarching story, because it's not as cliched as I thought going into it. This story has been kind of done before in rom-com movies and other stuff, but I just liked how it wasn't him battling for it. It was kind of just you could feel that these two liked each other, even though from the perspective of Nick, I didn't expect the book was going to be from his point of view. That just following him and his, realizing, okay, maybe I have to accept the reality that I like my best friend's sister and stuff like that. It flowed really well. Every story beat, it fell into it nicely. Nothing felt forced. Nothing felt rushed. It all worked out well. And that even when it got to the points where it was focusing on Nick's soccer career and other stuff, I was kind of like mad because I wanted to get back to the love story. It was just like, I was like, I get it. He's good at soccer. Can we go back?
That's how you know you're starting to be a rom-com person.
Yeah, that's
most of what you said is like pretty true to a lot of YA rom-coms. So I feel like you're bought in now.
I know.
Yeah, she's gonna send me a list after all this, just like, hey, here's the ones
right.
that hit.
This is your new reading list. Start on it. Give you a summer reading list like high school.
Oh god. And then what are anything I missed, Jenna? Was there anything that you felt popped up for you as well?
I don't think so. You covered a lot. It's Elizabeth, like you said, it has a lot of what someone might be looking for in a YA rom-com. You've got the main trope with either the sibling's best friend or the best friend's sibling, like kind of two sides of that coin. You've got the picnic, you've got study dates, you've got the trying to sneak around. It's very fun. Yeah, like you said, the flashing back to kind of first crushes, even later on in life, like starting those relationships and the early stages in a relationship. It's just so fun. And when it's all innocent, it's really refreshing, and sweet is just the word I would think of for that. And yeah, it was really cute.
Yeah. And I think what I also appreciate is, as I said, I hated when we left those parts, but the fact that then also a lot of the book was dealing with Nick as his growth as a person, learning kind of social norms of things, not to say what, where to not cross a line. When you put those in the book, I kind of discussed this in our last check-in. They felt natural. It didn't feel like it was a point that needed to be brought up like a check mark. Because I feel like in some books, if someone tries to bring up something as a lesson, sometimes it feels like they do interject a lesson into their book. This felt like it was 2020. It's today how people talk. It flowed, and even if there was something that maybe I didn't know, it stuck with me, and it stuck with me in a way where I didn't have to be pulled out of the book. I just kept going with the story. but
Okay.
there's something to be learned. And so I really appreciated that, because I feel like for people like me who feel like they don't want to read a rom-com because I'm a guy, and we had this discussion a few episodes back, that it's okay to like what you like, it's okay to do what you do, and just accepting that and not worrying about what other people think, but still being aware of how to treat others. This book really hits the nail on it, and especially with some of the lessons we learned sort of later in the story. And I think that's what kind of made it, cemented it as a favorite of mine now for YA. Is just, like I said, I read mainly action, fantasy, sci-fi stuff. I don't branch out much. And so
I keep trying to convince him that action adventure is a movie genre, not a book genre.
That was my first thought too. I was like, action books. Hold on.
And yet.
So sort of the big, just, if I read a YA story, it's that stuff that's probably, it's got a movie adaptation or crap like that. And so
it's the Twilights and Hunger Games of the world.
Yeah. And so I don't like to branch out what's my comfort zone. And so this helped more with that, like Romance Book Club did, and I think in a way more where I just attached to it more, because this was high school. Yeah, we're not far off from high school, so I feel like I'm still there.
That was the thing too. In the check-in episode, when he was talking, kind of like he kind of summed up a little bit ago, where he was like, yeah, I was flashing back to high school and it was wild. And I was like, I would like everyone to be aware, this was not like 30 years ago. We graduated high school about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
6 for you, I think 7 for me. But yeah, it's like it's not out of the realm of possibility for us to be flashing back to high school.
Well, right. And then even in college, then still the school scenery. Like even then there was people who still acted like they were in high school, not growing up. And so it was like, I still felt like it was just,
I mean, I still know some people that act like they're in high school, if I'm being honest.
But it was very, like I said, just to kind of wrap up the overall, because what we want to do is kind of do a sort of condensed version of our normal episode for this first half, and then we want to get into asking you questions. And so for overall, do we enjoy it? I'd say, yeah. I'm kind of just trying to summarize the best I can, is that you created a believable world in a modern day that reflected how people need to learn to be better, in a way that told a cute story that also told an important story of growth of a young man who had some toxic masculinity traits, as well as even with some of his friends and stuff like that. And so I feel like and the fact that it was his point of view, I feel like could branch out to more male readers. You would think when you see a rom-com, something that looks like this, even when I kind of looked at it in the Barnes & Noble shelves, even though it's alphabetical order, everything surrounding were these bright colors, these, cute couple pictures on the front. I would have avoided that section entirely, like in my old reading habits. I would have gotten in that corner and been like,
it's almost like that is the point of the podcast.
Exactly. And so the way that it focuses on him, I feel like could really branch out to young male readers who need to get out of that comfort zone, who need to get out of that mental thought of, I need to be a man's man and I need to be the tough guy. I need to be the Nick McGuire, old Nick McGuire. And so I was really happy with this read. Very surprised with how sucked in I got in the beginning, and then just was really happy by the end of it.
Do we want to use that as a segue? So another thing that we always do is we discuss our favorite character, our favorite scene, and our favorite quote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Dana, if you want to start us off, and then I can go, and then Elizabeth, if you want to be thinking about it, we would love to hear your answers as well.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
I think I'm good.
Okay. I was going to say, you don't probably have to think about it too much.
And then, and I'd say also feel free to interject after we say what ours are. For me, favorite scene, it's definitely going to be a Nick and Elizabeth moment.
Eliza. Sorry.
Eliza, sorry. Oh, God.
Tired.
A lot of people do that, and I have to tell them that I wrote it when I was in high school, and I was Lizzie, so it's like not me.
Right.
Sure.
I get that question sometimes.
So, I think it would have to be the first moment that was kind of a forward moving the relationship, the beach party. when
The beach party
they-
was super cute.
when they were alone by the water, like as much as the relationship grows later on, that for me was the mic drop pinpoint of just Nick was like, oh crap, what am I getting into? But it was just so natural, it was so cute. Because I did like the Guitar Hero night, but when it did that, I was like, ooh. I was like, there it is. I was like, there's
That
the
was
sign.
one that I related to, again, a little bit too much. So I have two older brothers who are quite a bit older than I am. They're 6 and 7 years older. And so it was the thing. And I was like, I want to hang out with you guys. You guys are the cool adults. And I want to hang out with you and your friends. And so a lot of it turned into me playing Guitar Hero or watching them play Portal or whatever.
Right.
And so I had a few Guitar Hero dates.
Oh my god.
But
So
yeah,
would you say Nick is your favorite character then?
I'd have to say just because he is our main guy, because
It's hard not to root for the hero.
right. And so I would say it had to be Nick. Also Eliza, just because whenever she came in, she stole the show because his focus went to her, so our focus went to her. And it was like we had the crush on her. And so it was that way how it was done. And so her
Did you get a
picture,
crush on a fictional character?
I am in love.
Your
with
fictional
Eliza.
character? Do you have your first book girlfriend? I have a lot of book boyfriends, so you're totally
That's
fine.
a big moment in your life.
There you go.
It's big, yeah.
At 25 years old, it had to finally happen. And so, yeah, it has to be Nick just because his growth and the fact of just following him. Because like I said, what I liked was that it wasn't the stereotypical, she comes back and all of a sudden he likes her. Like you got the feeling that he always had that crush, but all of a sudden it was her coming back and unlocked it. And so it was seeing that innocence of him realizing like, I'm crossing a line, I shouldn't do this. And it was just watching that innocent side of him as opposed to the tough guy Fasaki we play all the time. I was just like, there's a good guy under there. There's a softie under there, and I want to see more of the softie. And so fun for that. And then and the beach scene was one where it got to play on that more. So the beach party when they went in the water, that was the cutest moment for me.
And did you write down a favorite quote?
My favorite quotes for me were kind of all the insults to all the guys they fought with. So
This is a cop-out because he never writes down a favorite quote, ever.
No, but this one I loved because I laughed so hard at this comeback. It was when they were starting the big soccer game, and there's the douche Ben, and he says to Carter, how's the nose, because he had hit him. And then Carter responds, how is yours? I'd imagine everything smells terrible considering all the asses it's been up today. And it was so fast.
Checks out, that would be your favorite.
It was so quick of a comeback that I just started dying on the couch.
Those are the comebacks you think of in the shower like 3 days later.
Right. It hit me so hard that I was like, oh, I would not have been that witty right then and there. And so I had to reread it a couple of times before I could move forward. I was like, that's it. Carter's got my vote for second. What about you, Jenna?
So my favorite character was definitely Eliza. I liked the guys. I was never the one to like hang out with the bros, and so I liked kind of watching Eliza be in that world, but kind of on the outskirts of it, and not being afraid to call them out on their bullshit, honestly. Which leads into my scene and my quote. My favorite scene was definitely the pool scene at the school. Close second would be the picnic, just because it was very awkward. But yeah, the pool scene at the school, I think, because you get a fun mix of, it's definitely that like rom-com moment where he pulls her into the water and they're playing and he has her up on his shoulders, and it's just like, it's all of the things that you would expect to see in that scene. But at the same time, I like that the characters aren't afraid to have real life and important conversations, and that they can have those with each other. And so my favorite quote was when Eliza was talking to him about the boys will be boys mentality. And she was saying, bros before hoes feeds into that. And it Here we go. Reading is so hard right now, y'all. I'm so tired. Bros Before Hoes feeds into that, and it makes guys act in a way that's actually super scary for me. The point is, Bros Before Hoes perpetuates a world where shit like that happens. And talking about just really inappropriate behavior leading into sexual assault, like all of those things. And so I really liked that. That was a conversation that I wish more people had in real life. And that people felt like they were able to say to each other and to people that they cared about. And so I liked that scene a lot.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's not like often the authors get to talk to readers like in a setting like this. And especially when like the readers are on exactly the same page as the authors, like you guys are interpreting the book like exactly how I intended it to, which is just so cool as an author. My favorite character, it went back and forth while I was writing it, but overall it is Madison.
Okay. I liked her a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like all of them, obviously. I just thought Madison was like the most badass and the most like sure of herself. And my interpretation of her was that she was kind of like the bad girl, but she wasn't like just mean. Like a lot of YA books have that character. They're usually blonde.
The Regina George.
The Regina George.
Every time we have a Regina George.
That's because there's always one, Dana.
Yeah.
He says that like I bring it up so that we're always talking about Mean Girls. No, there's always a Regina George.
Yeah, I was trying to keep Madison like kind of more leveled or explain like at least why she was like that. So I liked her. And then my favorite scene, I was going to say the beach scene, so then I have to pick another one.
Oh no.
Because that's also my favorite scene. I really like that you guys haven't already mentioned. I like the end scene at the end when they're in the pool party.
Yeah.
And it's like the end of school. That was just really fun to write and have like all the characters come together. But I also loved writing the beach scene because I got to play up the romance and the cuteness and the moment when they finally might step over the line and all the readers can like say the ship has sailed. And I liked writing the first pool scene too for the reasons that you mentioned, where it was balancing this cute rom-com moment with something more serious, which is what I was hoping to do with the book, is just kind of make it this rom-com that could also examine more serious topics through satire. So I'm glad you guys picked out those scenes. I loved those scenes too.
And do you have a favorite, maybe not exact quote off the top of your head, but like a line or something? Yes,
I forget. I think it's in one of the I think it's the chapter where they take their AP bio test and Nick and Carter are like sitting down. I don't know if we're allowed to say spoilers in this.
Yeah, we're not gonna like discuss them in depth, but go for it.
Okay, Nick and Carter are talking, and Nick is like excited that they can have that moment, and he says, "Pizza is the great equalizer."
Oh yeah.
They get on the same page. That's my favorite line.
And I just want to say, jumping in, talking about Madison, another part that I wrote down, I didn't write down the exact quote, but later on in the book, when Nick is kind of having these moments of thinking about all of the people in his life through this different lens, and he's kind of taking a look at Madison and is saying like all of these things that she is completely vilified for. If it was me or if it was Carter, like those would be things that would make us cool and those would be things that would make us popular. And it's only because she is female and doesn't want a relationship and wants to just kind of fool around with friends and like all these things that would be normal for a boy our age are the only reasons that people don't like her. So I like that a lot too.
One thing that comes up in YA a lot, especially on Wattpad, I don't know how familiar you guys are with that platform, is like the bad boy concept, which I guess Nick and Carter like kind of are. And you have to think about like why they're the bad boys, where mostly they just have a lot of girlfriends, tell a lot of like raunchy jokes, and then Madison would be like the bad girl character, but it's like taken completely differently. Whereas people actually think of her as like bad, whereas the bad boys, they kind of just say like, oh, like they're boys, like they're rebellious, they're kind of
It's
cool.
like a type of boy that girls look for.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
Well, yeah, like I said earlier, it's just so many of those common issues that, I would say probably back in the time we were kids, it's considered the norm, boys would be boys and all of that. And then as we've grown older now in this generation, it's what needs to be discussed. And still sometimes you find people not discussing it. And I feel like almost every issue you hit, and just naturally, it flowed in a way where it wasn't me trying to teach. It wasn't you trying to teach a lesson. It was you trying to just inform and have us walk away with something. It was really well done. And that they all hit me, and I was like, yes, I guess.
One of the cool things about writing this was I had first written it when I was in high school in 2012, and it was just like a straight rom-com. The only premise of the book was that bros can't date each other's sisters, so like that was the whole story. And then last year, my publishers had asked me like, hey, do you want to publish this and make it into a real book? I was like, yeah, of course. But they were like, hey, we need you to update this for 2020 because so much had happened in those 8 years in the terms of toxic masculinity and pro culture and the Me Too movement. And then like I had finished high school or college and could look at it more critically. But what was really helpful was the structure of it, with each chapter was about a rule or about some kind of like cultural thing that they could then break. So it was really easy to put in those little moments because the structure had already lent itself to that. And then it was also nice to be able to point out like how much had changed from 2012 and the interpretation of, oh, what is bro culture? And having it be like a funny thing into the like, hey, maybe let's look at this instead of
maybe
just
this
being
is something
funny.
we should question.
But it could still be funny, so it's a good time to write it.
For sure. Yeah, very topical.
Which is why I also liked at the end, not going to go into spoiler, but the updated list as the last thing to see in the book. I just laughed reading. I was like, good points.
Thank you.
Do we have any other general discussion, like final thoughts before we move on to more of the question side?
I think that's about, we hit kind of all our big points in story and scenes and all that. So yeah, we can get into more of the interview side.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and take over because I made lots of notes on this part.
Oh boy, all right.
I know, get ready.
She just has
like
the list.
Job interview. I just pictured me as a cartoon character where they always like unroll the thing that goes all the way through the town. It's not that bad, I promise. So the first thing, and you do not have to answer this one if you don't want to. I know, so this is about the dedication, and I know that can be very personal for a lot of people, so feel free to just like pass on this one. But I was very curious about when it said 4 giraffes. Is that...
I'm just thinking about what the dedication said. Hold on.
I can read it if you want me to.
No, I have a very accessible copy. Oh yes, all right. I just love giraffes, so I had to put that in there. I don't know, this is my first book that I published, so I was like, I have to go hard on this dedication. I don't want to leave anyone out.
Sure.
So yeah, I had to put in giraffes.
It's like, so when we were in high school, we did theater together, and there was this big joke that whoever got a Tony first or an Oscar or whatever, they would have to thank the Ghostlighters Club or the Ghostlighters so that it would be all of us and we would know. So I definitely understand that.
Yeah, I had to put in like all my family people too with those are all the initials.
Right.
No one would feel left out.
I don't remember the name, but I liked the one that was like, you really didn't want to shout out, but here it is anyway.
Oh, Kevin, yeah.
And then the only other one before we get into the ones more about the book specifically, is I was looking at your about the author section, and there were just so many jobs listed, like in
Okay.
addition to author, and there was lifeguard, waitress, finance reporter, marketer, and aspiring superhero. Which that last one I loved. But I was a little bit curious about the finance reporter and the marketer, and kind of wondering if any or all or whatever combination of those jobs kind of informed your writing process, what kind of writing you were doing, anything like that.
Ooh, I love that question. It's like secretly very deep. Thank
you.
Yeah, I put all of these in there mostly for the readers, just in case any of them had similar backgrounds to me. And like I've kind of been all over the place. Like I've done waitressing and 9 to 5, which some people don't get to do both of those. So I wanted mostly just to connect to the readers. But in terms of if they informed the book, definitely yes. Let me think about how. I'll just go in the beginning. So,
no, you're fine.
Barbecue loving waitress. Yes, a lot of the inside jokes in this are about like barbecue and just about like observations about people, which I got to do a lot of as a waitress. And I actually asked people questions about like brodom or bro culture when I was a waitress. If people would like want to have more fun with like their server or ask like, what do you do besides serving? There are a lot of like random people at the restaurant. It was really cool. So people would ask me like what I would do, and I was like, oh, I'm writing a book. And then it would turn into a thing where I could ask them questions. So I asked them questions about like what sometimes I get high schoolers. So I'd be like, how are high school parties different now than they were like 5 years ago? And one person had told me that the best ones like always have a tradition. And I was like, that's cool. I should put a tradition in my party. So
With
that's
the
where I
party
got the
hats,
idea for
I
the
liked
hats.
that a lot.
Yeah. So I got that specifically from being a waitress. So that was fun. And then probably similarly with just being a reporter and a marketer, it's just looking at like what questions to ask, not overtly, and have the piece kind of examine it and then also frame it in a way that's still accessible. So I knew that I wanted to talk about toxic masculinity in the update, but I also knew I wanted it to be a rom-com and I didn't want it to like slam people's heads. So having that background as a reporter or marketer, like I can do the research. I could pull quotes from people and just insert those into the story, which is kind of fun. So yeah, definitely having a combination of all of those backgrounds like definitely made the story what it was.
Interesting. And so that kind of segues into another one that I have here with what was your experience with bro culture? Like before writing the book, during, maybe after?
All right.
We got to sit back for this one. This is a big one.
Yeah, I have to think. Before the book, my experience was a lot like Nick and Austin's, I guess, in the sense that I wasn't really aware of it. Because I was in high school, I was writing it. I was surrounded by bros. I thought they were funny and cool and everything. So I thought that would just be like a interesting, popular thing to write about. And then as I went through college and right after I graduated, I like specifically got to see how it could escalate into toxicity, like especially in college, where I think you mentioned you see like those bros that are like definitely still from high school, but now they're in college and there are hordes and hordes of them, and they can still be funny and lovable. And I definitely don't mean to hate or cancel bros or anything, but there is also like a point where the mindset of banding together, and especially bros before hoes, can get like very dangerous. So like I saw like some of my friends experience some of those like dangerous sides, or I would just see it like through the media, especially when like the Me Too movement came out, and I would like really question like the guys in my life, or the guys that I've seen on TV. So I didn't have like a direct experience with bros like after college, but I could definitely see that shift.
Okay, interesting.
And that answers that.
Yeah, I mean, basically whatever you say will answer the question because that's your answer.
I tend to ramble, so I don't know if I'll come back to this to
We
the original
definitely
question.
don't do that at all. Specifically, Dana. I'm just being a jerk. We both do that all the time.
It's okay. I accept it. I fully accept it for a lot of stuff. Here's one for an example. Literally just the other day, my father at dinner mentioned to me, because he sometimes misses, if I'm telling a story, he'll be in his phone or something, he'll miss an important part. He asked me to go back. I go back to the very beginning. He goes, you don't have to go back to the very beginning to tell the story again. I go, no, but you specifically, if I just try to go back a little bit, you say, no, wait, back more. And I end up at the beginning anyway. So for him, I make that exception, but I do realize that when I have to tell a story, I give like 10 years of backstory before I get to the point. So it's a problem.
I mean, it's good skill for podcasters. I think you found your calling.
We'll see. Cross your fingers for us. Now we're just going to work on him reading multiple books in a month, and we will be set.
It's not like it never happened. It has been years. I got really behind on myself.
Good that you're self-aware of this.
Right. And then before I get into more of the kind of back into the story ones specifically, as a reader or someone who's writing rom-coms or, whatever, do you have a favorite rom-com trope?
Well, when I was a reader, before I started writing, I was definitely partial to the best friend's sister.
Mm-hmm.
But I hadn't seen it done from the male side, so that's one of the reasons for the bro code. But then also, enemies to lovers is fun, just because there's so much tension.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that one opens up for a lot of sassy banter too, which is very good.
And it just gives you like an automatic structure for the book. It's like, you know how they're going to start up, you know how they're going to end. And readers love knowing that and seeing the journey for how you get there. So enemies to lovers. And then my third one is fake dating, which also kind of gives you structure. But yeah, there are some books that have fake dating and enemies to lovers. And I'm not sure if there's one that also has best friend sibling. But yeah, I love when books combine them.
Sure.
It's really fun.
And did you ever date a best friend's sibling or a sibling's friend?
I did not. I didn't really, I don't know. Trying to think if this was inspired by me wanting to, but I don't think so.
Subconsciously.
As soon as you said enemies to lovers, I was like, oh yeah, that I agree. Because I will say that was her first girlfriend ever, 12 years old, 6th grade. It was an enemies to lovers situation.
Oh,
Dana. So it was really funny. I didn't realize that it was because I annoyed her in 5th grade. We were in the same class. I annoyed the hell out of her, apparently, because my rambling.
You wore her down.
And then 6th grade, it was just enough rambling to seem cute, I guess.
Oh boy. And so I guess that kind of answers the next question as well. Were any characters loosely or take inspiration maybe based off of real people in your life?
Yes, like it wasn't really based off of like my experience, but definitely people I knew's experience. So I was writing this when I was in high school, and I would have like guys on the soccer team like sitting next to me, and they're just like, oh, like Lizzie's so quiet, like she's not going to spread any gossip. So they would just like spill all the tea, and I would just be sitting there next to them.
I was never that kid because I was far too dramatic. They were like, oh my God, don't tell her anything. I wouldn't spread it. I would just be very shocked.
Yeah, people told me like everything, and then they didn't even know that I was a writer. So I never put their names in, but if they were to read this, I think they would see themselves in it.
Themselves.
For sure.
And a specific character, Nick's dad, for anyone listening who hasn't read it, the male lead, Nick, his dad is a former almost professional soccer star and is kind of, for another, not really trope, but thing that you see in books a lot, is kind of living vicariously through his son and is waking him up super early for these soccer workouts and, you know, all of these things.
Hard
Is
ass.
that what?
My parents
Hard
were not
ass.
like that, but some of my friends' parents were. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did sports in high school, just like not soccer. But I would see some of the parents of people that I knew like get more into it than the kids. So I was partially inspired by some of the parents that I just saw.
Sure.
Just like, and you can see how hard it was for the kids too. So.
Yeah.
I had actually originally written, Nick's dad is completely different in this version than the first draft I wrote, which is still on Wattpad for anyone who wants to read it, but please don't. So Nick's dad had cancer, and that was like Nick's big struggle with the story. But I didn't want to be one of those writers who used cancer as a plot point. Even though a lot of people do it really well, I didn't think that I could have. So I was like, I need to change this.
It's got to be tough, for sure.
Yeah, and I didn't personally have any experience with it, so I was just like, I'm not writing this anymore. But I wanted Nick to still have that struggle with his dad. So I was thinking like an internal struggle between like kids and parents is like very relevant for high schoolers.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll just put that in. That's great. But yeah, it was very like intentional to put that in.
Interesting. And then I'm going out of order on my list here, and so I'm like, which ones have I not done already?
Dare you?
I'm sorry. Some of them just segued so well, Dana. I don't know why I turned into Alexis Rose there. So Dana had mentioned it earlier. What made you exactly want to write it from the male perspective? I feel like it's not, I don't want to say rare, but it's not as often that you see a rom-com only from the male perspective. Maybe it'll be like switching off between the two leads or something like that. And especially I feel like rom-coms written by female authors.
Yeah, originally it was for the sole shallow purpose of just not wanting to be cliche. Where I was like, I'm writing cliche tropes, so the only thing I can do is write from a male perspective and it'll be new and fresh.
Sure.
So that was like the first thing. But then as I was editing it, I was thinking like, should I put in more of Eliza? Should it really be Nick? And I thought that giving it through Nick and like telling the bro code through the eyes of the bro would be able to give more of those like recognizing the system that you're in moments.
The kind of learning moments, yeah.
Yeah, whereas like telling it from a girl's point of view might have been more preachy. I don't know if it would have been, but yeah, telling it from a boy's perspective was something I felt like I could pull off, and it was a good opportunity for the story.
Interesting.
I hope I succeeded.
I would say yeah, because I think if the book had been from Eliza's perspective, when Nick got to his self-realization, we wouldn't have felt that it would have been just a scene where he comes to her and says that he realized, and there
wouldn't have been as much of an arc.
There wouldn't have been weight to it, and so I think the fact that we see it, because even the kind of already seed that you plant with Carter, always calling out Austin, like every time Austin puts a toe over the line, Austin's like, buy us pizza. Like I love that because it was just like one guy in the group at least taking charge and accounting for any of them doing something, and Nick kind of in the middle of that. So to watch Nick then get out of the middle and a little more to that right side, it works to watch through his perspective. I forgot reading it that I was like, because as we were saying, is like it was normally it would be from the female's perspective. I was like, yeah, a female wrote the male here, and I fully believe this is a guy I would have hung out with or known during high school. Like it hit the nail on the head.
I can think of a few people we hung out with during high school.
Yes.
And then the last main big question that I had was with the ending, again, without going majorly into spoilers on our part, in the ending with that epilogue at the pool party, we do kind of see our main 3 bro characters passing the torch on to the next generation. Is that something that you did to leave it open for a possible sequel if people ended up responding to the book or anything like that? Is it a story you would want to keep writing?
I don't currently have plans for a sequel, but I will not say never. No, I kind of did it that way. He has to leave room for interpretation, and have people see that the bro code isn't stopping just because people have this realization about themselves. Like life goes on, society goes on, and it reiterates. So that was my intention with that. If people really want a sequel, like if this becomes like a bestseller and there's demand, like yes, absolutely.
Dana's already starting a petition, probably.
Well, I kind of want to see the college lives of Nick and Eliza. That's what I was thinking.
You want that long distance relationship.
Fun struggle to read about.
Oh, I had a long distance relationship for too long. I don't know that I can read too many more of those.
Yeah, that'd be hard to write.
Yeah. All right, Dana, did you have any other questions that I didn't cover?
Yeah, I think one that I would like to ask for as an author, for you in writing, for anyone who is an aspiring writer, for anyone who wants to be in your position and have something published or at least on a platform, what is any advice or a rule or something that you would pass on to anyone listening that wants to be published or writing?
It's actually something that a lot of writers say that I didn't realize why it was true, so I'll explain why it's true, which is write every day and read every day. And the reason for writing every day is it's kind of like if you're an athlete, like if you're a runner, you run 4 miles, 5 miles a day, like great for you. But then if you take 2 weeks off and you try to start running again, it's gonna be really hard. And it's the same with writing. Like you don't want the rust to get on your fingers, metaphorically. And it just gets easier and easier the more you write every day. You can build up that endurance and stamina. So that's important. And then reading every day is important. It doesn't really matter what you read, as long as you read books that you like or you think might be good for you. And it actually is good to read books across multiple genres and authors of different backgrounds. And that's because when you read, your brain just implicitly picks up on little craft techniques. You learn new words, you learn new ways to structure sentences without even realizing it. So that will show up in your writing and it will make your writing look that much better. So I tell them to do that.
And
Awesome.
with writing every day, would you say it necessarily matters what you're writing? Would it be writing a short story every day? Would it be journaling?
I don't think so. If you're in the middle of writing a book, I would urge you to continue writing that just because your brain will like know which piece goes where, and it's hard if you forget that. But if you're just writing because I told you to write every day, like doesn't really matter. Just like don't let the rust get on. It's kind of like going out for a jog.
Awesome. Well, do you have any other thoughts? Do you have any favorite stories from when you were writing the book or anything else you want to talk about?
Not sure about writing. Oh, okay. I'll just tell you some little anecdotes from the book, I guess. So I had to lean on my friends a lot for all of the sports and video game references. So like one of my friends plays basketball, so I had to like have him read the basketball scene. And I was like, am I using the terminology right? Is it like actually half court? Do people say it? Do people say half court or they say something else?
Do these words make sense in this order?
Yeah, I was like, what does this mean? And even like with the soccer, there are just little things that I thought were right. I forget what it was. I think it was like, do people say, I had written in that there's like overtime in the World Cup. And then my friend was like, no, it's called something else. So it's whatever I put in the book, that's the right one, but it's not overtime. So I learned stuff like that.
Sure. I'm not a sports person, so I would not have known. Got me fooled.
I think I really appreciate that, because like there were so many just kind of like, I don't know, lack of a better word, like nerdism moments where he made references to movies or games or something that were just so off the cuff and simple that at points I was like, I'm Nick, because I know all these things. And I was like, I know these things, but a lot of it, even though I never personally experienced it myself, like I knew of it, like the Fortnite references, they were like, I thought, I was like, well, I've never touched it. I was like, I would believe that this is how a guy is randomly playing Fortnite. And so, because all my coworkers did, and they did nothing but talk about it. So it was, no, I loved all of those, because it was just like, I love a little Easter egg or teaser of something that I enjoy. Like in one of our previous reads, there was an X-Men reference. And I was like, yay. And Jen rolled her eyes, and I was just like, yay.
It did, because you chose that book because you were hoping it would be X-Men. My cat is taking a bath right here, and it's killing me because it keeps like catching my eye on the screen. I'm like,
oh my God, just cover the cat.
Oh no, I want to see the cat. It's good.
Yeah, and so well done. I loved all those little pieces, because it made it more believable, and it
did feel very teenage.
Yeah, and
which is fun.
I remember with my bros, we'd talk like that randomly, whereas if we'd make an inside joke about a video game or a TV show that only we were watching or playing or something like that. So it was just very natural.
For me, it was weird Broadway references that nobody understood except Katie. No one else. Every once in a while, our drama teacher would be like, you said that for nobody's benefit. And I'm like, yeah, I know.
One thing I wish I had put in, actually, which one of my friends told me about after, was to like build up the school mascot more. Where I had mentioned in the first chapter, like, woohoo, go Owls, to like break the tension. And I like wish I had carried that through the story. Because I was just thinking about my experiences, and I was like, yeah, people reference the mascot all the time. I wish that had been played up more.
People did that as much at our school, like
not
just
for you
yelling
guys?
"Go Jags" when things were weird. The mascot was weirdly present, though. Like the mascot itself, like the costume, people would randomly be in it all the time. Outside of assemblies and games, they would just like Jake the Jaguar would be wandering around the school.
I
remember that being weird.
I would say for junior high and high school, my experience with the mascot was everyone had just the biggest gripe about who was in it, because it was always made as a mystery. So maybe it could have been funny if maybe someone in the crowd was secretly the owl and we never knew until the end or something. But because that was always the joke, is because my junior high was Glacier View. We're like, okay, how is a glacier a mascot? So the mascot was the Yeti. And then one day the Yeti came in and did all these backflips. I'm like, who the hell in class can do backflips? And we're trying to see who's not in the crowd, and we're trying to figure it out. And so the fun of it was, who wants to be sweaty in the suit all day?
Ours was the Tai. And so we had like a big totem pole in our cafeteria. And I don't think I ever saw the mascot costume, like maybe twice.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I was the dork from the dance team and the theater department. Like I always knew who was in the mascot costume.
I know.
All right. Well, anything else before we start signing off?
Well, thank you guys so much. This was really fun.
Absolutely. Do you have anything you'd like to plug? Any social media?
Oh, of course.
Anything you're working on?
Yeah, there you go. That's the section.
All my social media is pretty much Lizzie A. Seibert. I have a newsletter, which is on my website, which is elizabethseibert.com. And if you're going to join anything, join that, because you get giveaways and the most exclusive stuff from the newsletter. But if you want to just like randomly stalk me, it's Lizzie A. Seibert. I tell jokes sometimes. I have my cats on there, so have at it.
And I will link all of that in the show notes as well. So
Awesome.
that will be down there if you want to give her a follow. And then let me pull up my spiel here. It is lengthy. You can email us for the podcast anytime at thesamepagepod@gmail.com. If you have any books you think we should read for the podcast, any questions, collaboration requests, maybe if you have read one of our upcoming books once we announce them and you want to be a part of that conversation, send us an email. We'd love for you to be a part of the discussions with us. If you want to reach out to me specifically, you can find my blog at tacklingtbr.home.blog or over on Instagram at tackling_TBR. Once Dana has some sort of social media, his will go here. Don't give me that look.
There is a placeholder Instagram for the moment.
And then as for the podcast, you can find and connect with us on Instagram at The Same Page Podcast, on Twitter at The Same Page Pod, and you can find us on both Facebook and YouTube just by searching for The Same Page Podcast. And then the last thing, as always, that I will say is if you are listening to our show and you like what you hear, maybe you want us to do more author interviews, get more episodes like this, please consider heading to Apple Podcasts or wherever it is you're listening to the show and subscribing, giving us a positive rating, and leaving your thoughts in a review. It takes only a minute or two, and it means the world to small shows like us, helping us get introduced to more bookish folks.
And I guess I will quickly go. I think I realized I came up with one more quick little question for you, Elizabeth, is because we know that Wattpad is where you kind of publish a lot of your stuff. It's a public forum for writers to put their stuff. But Bro Code got lucky enough to be, come in full format. Is there anything we should keep an eye out for? Is there anything else coming down the road soon, or are you working on anything?
Oh, for me, yes, I'm actually kind of taking my stuff in different places from Wattpad too. But I think my next book is going to be called No Capes. That one is on Wattpad if you want to read the first draft, but the update's going to be like completely different, like the update for the Bro Code was. But that book is about superheroes. It's a YA adventure romance, so yeah, both of them in there.
I was going to say he has already now pre-ordered it, I'm sure.
Jenna's head immediately was going side to side. I'm like, goal.
Because I knew that you were immediately going to.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know what happens with that for sure.
Awesome. I am much more ecstatic now before my work shift.
All right. Any absolute final thoughts before I sign us off? Dana?
I think that's it. That was the only important question that came up in this thing. I was like, wait, is there any more? So,
all right. So for anyone listening, don't forget this is going up on the 30th as usual, but this is going to be the last episode on that format. After that, it's going to be every Friday.
Woot.
All right. Do you want to sign us off? That's your job.
Yeah, it's fine. And then I just say, well, thank you, Elizabeth, for coming onto the same page. It was a pleasure to get to know you and a pleasure to ask you about the Bro Code.
Thank you so much for having me. It was awesome to meet you guys.
You too.
All right. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.